want to start with Stormy. Um, what was the appeal for you to create a course like this?
So, and bringing to the students the idea that nothing is written in stone and that musicals are not written, they are rewritten, and that collaboration is sometimes a difficult task. And to get those skills early on will really help you in your careers in the future. And there are levels of collaboration. We started with 3 people not knowing each other, having to learn to work together, and then bringing in other people and having comments made and having to know, oh, I have to make a change, and not holding on to something. And these are really important for musicians and theater people who are writing, for all writers, I think, and creators. It's important to know that that you can change things and you can make things better, and you can't hold on to it so that for your dear life, and not look at someone else's point of view. So I think when Mark asked me about a course in musical theater, I thought this is where it should go. Learning about how to collaborate, and learning how to and then, of course, a lot of the techniques from my angle of songwriting, and how other composers went about doing it, how they do their craft, and trying different styles and learning different forms of how to create music for musicals. And that was my interest in the course, and it's been really wonderful. I've been loving this.
I should say we started September 29th was the first Monday night. And they've been here almost every Monday night from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. since then. For any of the students, what was the appeal to you to come to a course like this?
Well, at least for I'm Rachel. Well, at least for me, there's no like course at my school that's for writing, and I'm a writer, and I love musical theater. So just that, putting those together in an actual class and actually getting to do it for real is that's what appealed to me.
Anybody else?
I'm a writer and a composer, so like having this opportunity to put both of those two things together seemed really cool to me. And I'm really glad I did this. It was a lot of fun.
That's Dylan.
I'm Dylan.
And I would also like to add the one thing that's great about all of these talented people is that when you, like Stormy said, you have to learn to give up and to let go of something, but you also have to have the passion to fight for what you think is right and what you want in. And that's where collaboration happens, is that you have a bunch of passionate, talented people who everybody feels they're right. And out of that comes usually the correct thing and the thing that makes the musical work best. And I want to congratulate all of you for fighting for your passions. And because I loved it. I thought it was great. I mean, there were some things I was like, no, I need it like this. But when you start to learn what makes everything work, and that includes me too, to say, all right, let me give up that. Let me see what you want to do. Let's try that. But they're really good at that, and that's part of what is important about making a musical work is getting your passion and trying to put it up there, and then figuring out what's best for the musical. So yeah.
For the students, what was it like to be placed on a team with people that you didn't know, to have to come up with a shared plan?
Yeah, I'm Bailey. I did book and lyrics for Murder Afoot, and we have our ghost collaborator Tristan, who's here in spirit. And for me, being paired up with Mina and with Tristan was so it was like finding like puzzle pieces of yourself. I didn't know them. I could have gotten terrible, horrible people who have never heard of Sondheim, but I didn't. And I think getting to know a new person is so interesting and rewarding. And I've made a friend, I've made 2 friends, I've made a lot of friends, and I've made, collaborators. And there was something very kind of kindred spirits about the whole thing. I hope you agree. Oh, yeah.
What was the hard part of working with people that, not so much that you didn't know was hard, but coming to, these things weren't hacked in 10 minutes. To get to the story and get to an agreement, what was that like? Who do we know? Mina or Juan?
That's Juan.
One.
The hardest part of working with people you don't know is that you don't know them and you don't know their minds or how they think. And trying to get your images into their minds is really difficult. But we got it through, right?
One of the things that my team experienced, the hardest part was figuring out what to write about in the first place, which was like week 1 and 2. So we went around in a circle and we just shouted locations because we knew we wanted to do a murder mystery of some sort. So we just were like school, park, and then one of us said speakeasy in the 20s, and we were like, oh, there it is. So, I think all three of us having fun ideas, creating Google Docs of brainstorming, just coming down to one idea was one of the hardest things for us, but fun at the same time.
And and at least for me, in my case, I actually got moved into this group because my original partner dropped the class, and so I had, and I basically had to transfer my idea. I had to ditch the idea that I had with my other group member and join Dylan and Juan's group, but I think it was worth it because we created President Fitz, which you just saw, and it was an amazing experience.
How different is the President Fitz we just saw from where you guys started?
A lot different. I'm gonna.
So we started out with 3 different people. It was me, Dylan, and Sabrina, which was an actual real person who left the group and was on stage currently. But first, Fitz was a musician, a trumpet player who got hit in the head with a trumpet. And now it went to trumpet to buck and changed dramatically.
Your structure did too, about the whole dream thing and all that. That structure changed.
What was the best part? What was the hardest part? Anybody? Of the whole class.
For my team, one of the hardest things was having an idea and then scrapping it completely. There was one number you'll see where for the longest time we had one melody, and then towards the end of the process we're like, this isn't working. And I know that's part of new Broadway works, you're scrapping all the time. So that was a hard lesson, a hard baby to throw out the window. But Right, exactly. So that was one of them for us.
Yeah, I think we chose to use a framework that already exists. We used the murder mystery, and you'll see that in a moment, which I found really kind of helpful because it gave us a light post. What's it called? Lighthouse in the water with the lights.
Yeah.
Lighthouse. Good job. Yeah, so that was really helpful to us because that meant when we realized we had to change things or scrap things, we had a whole business for a long time about people firing guns and their guns didn't go off or they didn't have bullets in their guns, and we got very in depth as to how many bullets were in each gun, and we were like, you guys, this is a 10-minute show. And so being able to fall back on something that's recognizable, like a murder mystery, was very helpful in kind of creating a piece that is ours and that is changeable and malleable and has evolved so much throughout the course of this class.
Now, along the way, you guys got to see Guys and Dolls here. How was that experience? And was it relevant to what you were doing, or just sort of a nice thing off to the side? Were there connections that came from that? Or from meeting with Mary Zimmerman, the director? Anyway.
I think just seeing such a great prime example of what we were doing, had great influences on us. And I don't know, for me, it just gave me an idea of structure, and that was something we were all working really hard on, which is the main thing that we were trying to achieve in our musicals was the structure. So I think that helped a lot, seeing a full show.
I also think, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so interrupt me if you'd like to, but I think part of writing theater and creating theater is just seeing theater, just having a knowledge base to pull from seeing things that you like and not, stealing them, but saying, hey, this element rings very effective to me. How can we use that in our own work? This element seemed very odd to me and I didn't like it. Let's try to avoid that in our own work. So just the more theater we can see is going to be helpful to us as writers.
One of the things that was required in this exercise was that they couldn't use existing material. Most shows, I would say probably 90% of the musicals that you might see, are based on some other media or an historical figure or something that already exists. But to create something that is from nothing is really another very difficult task, to choose something that's completely original. And I applaud them on finding that.
I want to ask Randy, was our
Yes.
Randy Brenner is an accomplished actor and director who works, I would say, primarily with adults in professional settings. What was same or different in this assignment with these teams?
Really, the only thing was experience. I mean, when you work with adults who've been doing this for a while, there's kind of a shorthand that happens when you're working on a piece. You sort of know, you don't have to say certain things. And I had to take myself back to the beginning, which for me was a long time because I started when I was like 6 years old. But to be able to, talk about the basics and why things work and use other examples of other people's material, Stephen Sondheim, Stephen Schwartz, Kander and Ebb, those sort of things, to bring that experience to them, to get them to understand it, to understand how things are structured, and always to focus on the piece and what makes the piece work. But it wasn't that different. These are incredibly bright students who just picked up like that. So it was not a chore or anything like that, just sometimes just the experience of not doing it. But now they're experienced.
So the students worked a long time before Randy and the cast came into the picture. That was sort of at the end. So they were working week after week, writing, revising. We did table reads to give some feedback and so on. So when Randy arrived and the actors came, what was that like to see the work you had created?
Also, these actors are not students. These are professional actors that we hired for these two musicals, by the way.
It just gets handed off to me. What was the question again? Sorry.
What was it? Have the actors and Randy come and start to bring it to life?
Well, it was just crazy to see our work come to life with these people who know how to read scripts properly and sing the music and the lyrics, and and just seeing it all put together was crazy for me. Sorry.
For writers, I think the first time the actors embody our characters is kind of like costume day for actors. You feel like this is really happening, and the fun stuff starts to begin. And for these guys to see, these characters that have just been living in our brains for weeks, finally, standing up and singing, you can easily visualize what these harmonies aren't sounding right now that 5 people are singing them, or this line isn't reading, it's not landing. They just kind of help you fix all the things you didn't even realize were problems within the script.
Yeah, I mean, as Stormy says, musicals are not written, they're rewritten. I think we're making changes up until about 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. What changes that were made were the hardest for you to make? Are there any regrets about any change that evolved? Like, I wish we went back to that earlier draft 25.
Oh my gosh.
27.
So in our show, we had a stage direction that involved a sparkly blue jacket, and we had to ditch the idea because, for obvious reasons.
It wasn't in the budget.
We had a limited costume budget. So Randy wants to comment, then I have one last question.
I just want to explain something, too, that I don't know if all of you knew this was going to be a staged reading and what that is. And I think it needs to be mentioned because it's learned so quickly, even though actors may actually memorize stuff as they're doing it, it's much more difficult if they have to memorize it. So they still use their scripts as we're going. The reason I want to mention that is many years ago, I took my father, who had never seen a stage reading, to a stage reading, and I didn't tell him about it. And so the actors were going through everything, and at intermission, when we walked out into the lobby, I said, "Are you liking it, Dad?" And he said, I am. I just don't get why they can't memorize their lines. and I said, oh, no, it's a stage reading. They're supposed to have their scripts. So I want to make sure that all of you know that holding their scripts is a part of what this is. It gives us better ease to work through it, get more things done so that the actors, because if changes are made at the last second, they don't have to worry about, I'm not going to be able to remember that. So it's all written down. They can all read it, and it helps the process a lot quicker.
Yep, thanks for sharing that. And
Sure.
you'll see in
And
a
before-
minute, the cast is the same in both shows. So simultaneously working on two shows. Can you go back to the first song in the other show? And so there's a certain amount of like, whoa.
And before today, we had only 3 rehearsals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We have a special friend and supporter of the Wallace and Musical Theater on the program, Michael Kirkers, who's here. Do you want to ask a question, Michael?
Can you tell us who wrote Lawrence, who wrote music, and who wrote the book?
Yes, fair enough.
Here, let's pass this down, and then you can.
What your role?
Yeah.
Well,
There's a
maybe
mic over
introduce
here.
yourself
Okay, yeah,
again.
sure.
When you're-
Your name and your role. The part you played in creating the work.
Juan Solis and co-composer as well, like idea of President Fitz.
I'm Dylan Schifrin, and I did the music and some of the lyrics for President Fitz.
I'm Rachel Gilbert. I did the lyrics and book for President Fitz.
I'm Mina Bloom, and I did the music for Murder Afoot.
I'm Bailey Sher Isaac. I did some of the book and all of the lyrics for Murder Afoot, and on behalf of Tristan McIntyre, he did part of the book for Murder Afoot.
You still have Tristan walk in any minute. Okay. Because then we're going to do the show. I mean, we're just finishing now, but what big lesson learned or big idea do you think you're going to take away from the experience that will be most useful that you'll carry with you?
So I want to thank Stormy very much. Stormy's composer as well, and he said 2 words I'll never forget: inevitable surprise. That's what musicals are, which is sort of an oxymoron. What is it? Inevitable surprise. Like, you're expecting to be astonished, which is all what musical is. And another thing he taught us, there are 3 strong numbers in each piece, and he taught us to approach it from both ways, one time with lyrics first, and then music, and then music, and then lyrics. And for me, putting music first is like decorating a house without the structure. It's just like, whoa, what do I do? And that was a challenge that I was nervous to take on, but with this class, I was confident enough to tackle that and just collaborate with new people. It's just great lessons learned overall.
Anyone else on lessons learned?
Can I? Yeah, okay. I think I've learned to kind of stand up for myself. Everyone here is so wonderful, and like Randy was saying, everybody thinks that they're right. And I just think there's a part of me that exists that says, you know what? No, I'm the book writer that didn't really exist before this class. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that I have the conviction to know that my choices can be right choices, that all of our choices can be right choices. Because we are all just students, and so we're used to kind of not thinking that we have any authority. But clearly we do have authority because my words and, your music are up on stage. And that's kind of a really magical thing. Yeah.
Juan, did you want to add?
Musicals are really hard to write. Extremely difficult. But it was really great collaborating with all the people here in front, and this was a great experience.